This is Putting It Straight. Rethink your beliefs. Redefine your life.
It's no longer news that every Nigerian found on the street of a country abroad is a potential scammer. In Nigeria itself, security agencies are combing the nooks and crannies, hotels, private homes, and the street in order to smoke out the Yahoo boys, the so-called Yahoo boys. The reason is because they have brought a bad name to the country as well as harm individuals. But what if I told you that government of the country is implicated in the existence of scamming in Nigeria and that which is carried abroad? My name is Dr. drnttahbest, your usual anchor on Putting It Straight. This is a space where we get people to review, reevaluate, reassess all that we have been doing, reassess our moral, social, and cultural beliefs and activities, the norms, with a view to rethinking and redefining their lives. Welcome. In the studio today, I have a young man. Mr. David, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
I decided that we could make it different today. What we are going to discuss is a major issue of international proportion. And so I invited a youth because, generally, scamming is known to be carried out, executed more by the youth than adults. It's not to absorb adults in the wicked activity, but it is usually amongst the youth. And so I decided one of the youths who has sufficient knowledge about the activities that is going on amongst youths like him should come on board. And so we would like to take advantage of his insight into the issue as we begin this discussion. Please grab a seat and sit back for a reality trip. You're welcome. Now, Mr. David.
Yes, sir.
Welcome once again to the show.
Thank you very much.
Considering the minds of our viewers, both at home and abroad, yes, I think there are many questions agitating their minds,
yes,
concerning this issue. And so we hear so much about scamming. What is it about? What is scamming? What is involved in it? Let's begin from that point.
To my knowledge, scamming across however diverse the topic may be, may define it as taking advantage of one's ignorance and vulnerability for selfish profits. That's basically what scamming is.
Define your
yes, all kinds of scamming.
Does that agree with your own concept of scamming, with your own experience?
I believe it should.
I think it should, because scamming is trying to get people to believe what it is, what is not true to be true, trying to manipulate people, whether they are trust. It is largely a game on the trust that people have on society, on institutions and activities and all that. And so they easily manipulate this to their own advantage. And it is a matter that has to do with knowledge. When you are deficient in knowledge about a given issue, it is therefore easy for you to be deceived and manipulated. And now let's say we hear people talk about scamming. But of all of these, what seems to be prominent is the people being scammed of their money one way or other. So What can you say about this? Is it only financial scamming we experience?
No, I don't think we experience just financial scamming. That's why things like heartbreak exist and other forms of scamming. We can call a form of scamming. Example of scamming is blackmail. And
Okay,
that's in for that to be under information scamming.
okay.
And that's one of them. And there is financial scamming.
Yeah, which is very
Yes,
popular.
which the most popular of them all is
Yeah.
financial scamming. And of those two, those are the ones that really stand out among all that scamming. This way, it depends on people and what they are ignorant of, what they are capable, what they are docile of. That's what that aspect to be where they can be scammed.
Okay.
Yes. So for me, the most prominent and most visible is financial romantics
Scam.
scamming.
That is,
Yes.
in terms of romance scam, that is, there are people who fool the male or female,
The
fool the
female
opposite
full
sex
one,
and
yes.
pledges love and all that, but only to take
Take
advantage of the
advantage.
person's trust
Yes.
and desire to
Yes.
have a relationship, and
Yes.
then to take advantage of the person either to sexually exploit him or her,
Yes.
or maybe in the course of that, take money from him and similar things.
Yes.
Of course, we have already explained the information scamming where you can be roped in into something you have not written, you have not heard about it, and so somebody gets you into it as if you were a witness, you were part and parcel of the situation.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get beyond this. I'm sure viewers would want to ask about or know about the history. How did scamming become an issue in Nigeria such that it is now exported abroad? Can you say something about that, Mr.
Yes.
David?
For in my view, the history of scamming will start as in this view. It's the internet.
Yes.
As long as there's been internet and as long as been people ignorant of how to use it, there's opportunity for people to be scammed. So as long as there's been internet, there's been scamming.
Yeah, because it is largely a question of taking advantage of one's ignorance.
Yes, yes, yes.
And are you now saying that because youth are so much tech savvy today, the rest of us, like myself, I don't think I am so schooled in the manipulation of current technology, the internet, the apps, and the rest. So
Yes.
people like me are more likely to be taken advantage of. And so, does it mean because internet technology has been around, and so too the birth of scam, it comes about and it escalates?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's interesting. And then, what do you say? Do you think the scammers are only Nigerians, or there are people too? Because recently, our media, um, revealed that hundreds of Chinese and other nationals, Pakistanis, Indians, and the rest of them, were arrested in Lagos and were taken to prison and all that. So does this show that it's not only Nigeria that is involved in this, but other nationals are equally involved in scamming?
There are other countries and nationalities that are involved in scamming, but it thrives better here. The opportunity for it, it's in my knowledge, my understanding, thrives better here in my country.
Why would that be so?
That's for one. You can blame the government officials for it for starts, because when corrupt government officials want to shift their currencies, their funds, and other
Oh,
stashes.
hold on. Viewers, Are you listening to that? I think that's one of the major high points. I didn't know myself.
Definitely is.
So what's the connection between government officials and the scam?
When they steal this money, when they take this money, when they boycott these funds and keep it to themselves, it gets to an amount where they can't store it in banks and they can't keep it physically either. So they
Because that's why, okay, that's why government officials in Nigeria, many of them don't operate private accounts,
Exactly.
except a company account. Then there's a question of bunkers, them having bunkers in their homes and then storing money on the water tank
places,
and
private places.
okay,
Yes.
because if they transmit this through the banks,
Yeah.
the potential, the likelihood of
Traced.
being traced.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so
And they are not tech savvy. You can't tell me that these people that are taking the money and keeping it for themselves in their bunkers, it gets to an amount where they can't keep it in their bunkers anymore.
yes.
So they will not take it to the bank and keep it. They will shift it across borders. And they don't have the ability to do this on the internet.
Yeah.
They can't be the one stealing and be the one.
The intellectual
Exactly.
ability to, yeah.
Exactly. So these youths that are tech savvy, as you say.
Very smart.
Exactly.
The youth we have today are smarter than us.
Exactly. Where the tech savviness, they use it to shift these funds across borders.
Manipulating the apps, the financial apps on the internet
And
space.
stash them away in places where you will never get to. Places that no matter how you investigate, you can't
Yeah.
easily find it. Given the advantage that we have now, it seems this attribute about technology and internet, it hit its prime in our generation. Yes, so it's easy for us to grow up with it and learn and understand it better than those that existed before these epochs.
Oh, that's very enlightening.
Yeah.
I would also add that the fact that stealing billions and trillions, like we find it these days in Nigeria, that these activities may equally have triggered in the youngsters. In their minds, they say, look, these people every day they keep stealing the public wealth, and then abandoning the mass of the people in penury, in hardship. Now, let us too use our knowledge to get our own bit of the cake, in quote. I think that must be fundamental to the existence
Yes.
of.
I agree.
Okay, now, besides, I'm sure our viewers will want to know, besides the government implicity into it, aren't there other factors, other variables that could be responsible to encourage youth?
Yes,
to do this?
definitely. They are. These things, the other people that you can blame for this are people that control the the trend in morals, the moral leaders. You talk about pastors,
Okay.
chiefs, and places where people sit and by their power they influence the masses.
Okay.
So you talk about pastors, you talk about chiefs, you talk about other leading
The
places.
social leaders
So when there's corruption among these people, the followers also will want
to take the tune, it drops off on the.
so that they won't be at the losing end.
It's too sad.
Exactly.
Even though fun is too
I
sad.
agree.
So now you're saying pastors, who should be the guardian of our morals, of our consciences, the more corrupt and involved in illicit activities we find. So these ones give impetus to the youth, and probably by their opulence, the lifestyle that is stinkingly offensive. And so the young men would want to be like them. But now, what about somebody the other day we were discussing? He said, pastors or churches are greater scammers than the youth.
Exactly. That's true. I sincerely agree. I agree strongly with that. It says since it's said that religion is the opium of society.
Yes.
Yes, if I'm accurate.
Yeah.
When people go to things like this, things about spirituality, religion, worship, there are few people that have given themselves enough attention to be able to explore this world and understand how things operate. But those there, where we have the pastors, the prophets, the prophetess, and the rest of them, They've mastered this. Some of them have blessings that have given them an advantage in the world of spirituality. So when other people, when the followers depend on them, they don't depend in the way that one would depend with the knowledge of it.
Yes.
They're just docile, we would say like that. So they make it easier for them to be scammed and profiteer from things they shouldn't profiteer from.
Okay. So you're saying the how do which is the right word there? Their apparent ignorance,
Yes,
makes them vulnerable to being manipulated psychologically and mentally, such that they say, for example, it is very recent. There has been the battle between pastors and the internet, where a prominent pastor who has large following across the world was seen manipulating Christian scriptures in order to benefit himself immorally. He said, if you do not pay tithe, you won't go to heaven. And when he was harassed enough and he couldn't bear, he shamefully came to acknowledge that such an idea, such does not exist in the Bible. I see. Because when they say, pay tithe in order for you things not to be tight with you, if you don't pay tithe, you won't prosper, and they devise various ways of fleecing money from their followers. This is absolutely a scam.
yes.
But the eyes of government doesn't focus there. The eyes of the people doesn't focus there. Probably because their minds aren't developed enough to see this to be evil and should be condemned. You see, so what you're telling me now, or telling the public now, is that this thing has more than we can see,
More than we see.
more than we can hear.
Exactly.
And then when we talk about scamming, we had better look at it.
And other people we could blame for scamming, as like the aforementioned, is the government officials. When they have this used to participate in their criminal and dirty work,
Yes.
it's only these officials that are benefiting from the work, from this dirty work. The youths will have to find a way to also benefit from the skills that they have.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In other words, these greedy government official, politicians, and the rest of them, when they employ, they exploit the technical knowledge of these youths.
Yes.
To siphon money to wherever they want. Now, they do not seem to reward this youth appropriately.
Not sufficiently.
And so, as a fight back, the youth say, okay, you do so much. We are going to use this. After all, we help you do. We are going to do more. And so, they deploy that.
That's why it's still a thing that exists, and because you cannot punish them in that you cannot squash them out completely from a problem among the citizens. You can't squash them out because the government are benefiting from it. So this makes it exactly to live. It allows this ability, this scamming crime to thrive, since it's functional to the government.
And yet they shout horse. The boys they're damaging the image of Nigeria, and yet underneath they know support. Now, if factors within Nigeria may be responsible for a few of these youths to dirty the name of the country and harm others, if these factors are local, why then do we find scamming across the world?
All right. Okay. I'm not saying that the whole world is perfect and Nigeria is the worst, no. But since I'm here, I know what it looks like to be inside here. But the question now is, how come other worlds are participating in it?
Yes.
Yes.
That is why do Nigerians who travel abroad scam people there, or even sit down here to scam people in other countries?
I better understand the question now. So this, why this happens is that over there in first world countries, since those are the targets of Nigerian scammers, as we're talking about here, the world there for them provisions are made that allows one, even though you are not as capable as other people, better doing, well-to-do, and living life, there are provisions made for the youths or any other unemployed person to find survival, to survive in a way.
In other words, like the social security system there that makes it possible for certain individual, maybe the youths, once you're out of school and do not have a job, there are something like a stipend or something to upkeep you until you have a job.
Yes.
Or those other persons who may have lost their jobs, and for the time being to buoy them over until the period they have a job, they have a little thing to keep them going.
Exactly.
So such things that are present in that society or such societies are lacking in our own. And so the young men going there or living there don't have any incentive to worry about.
They have no incentive to worry about crimes, to worry about someone trying to use them for their survival, because there's no need for it. There's no point for it, since the provision has been
healthcare is also,
so their mind is not fortified for such an event to happen to them. That makes them so docile, so easy to be used by these Nigerian scammers, so unaware of what's gonna happen to them. That's why the scamming thrives there, survives there and with them as the victims. Yes, survives there with them as the victims. And since it's in lack here, those amenities are in lack here. We need to survive.
Illegally.
We need to survive, yes. We need to survive, and they've been pushed. The youth have been pushed to a point where they need to do anything to survive. So they take advantage of those people and their ignorance of the chance that they could not have what they have.
It's a pity. Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you very much.
Your commentary, your input has been very enlightening. I believe our viewers would have learned one or two things more than that, which they know.
I'm glad to have been a contribution.
You're welcome. There you are. That's the size of our business for today on this. But there is a part 2. Where we would talk about why the scamming insists and why it is difficult to wipe, as well as how you can do, what you can do rather, to help yourself prevent being scammed. If this broadcast has been of use to you, please like it, share it, and subscribe if you haven't done so we can redefine our lives and live better. Thank you. Let's meet again in the next video. Bye-bye.